All right, so why don't we get started here. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Adam Berezin from MS Dynamics World. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us for today's event, 4 reasons to automate your document flows with Xpertdoc Smart Flows for Dynamics 365 and CRM. So our presenter today is Erwin Bugenhout from Xpertdoc, and we are very happy to have him here with us today. You can submit any questions you have during the session through the Q&A box on the right side of your screen, and Erwin will try to get to all of them at the end of the event. So without further delay, I'm going to pass it over to Erwin. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you for the introduction, Adam. Let me just get this little screen out of the way. And good evening from where I'm sitting, and good afternoon to all of you. Probably all of you are in the US, and good evening to the few other ones out who are actually joining this meeting from Europe. I'm happy to be here and happy to present to you today or this afternoon the Xpertdoc Smart Flows for Dynamics solution. So why don't I get started by showing you or by telling you a little bit about the Xpertdoc company. To be honest, I'm not much of a PowerPoint guy, so I'm going to try to cut it short on the slides, and I'd rather show you some live action in the actual application. So I'm going to try to rush you through a couple of slides here, but don't run away. The live action is gonna start pretty soon. Xpertdoc Technologies, Canadian company, has been around for about 2 decades now, and has always had a very important focus on document-centric processes, trying to optimize, automate document-centric processes. We have about 60 in-house experts, as we call them, in document matters, both in North America and since recently also in Europe. I'll tell you more about that European thing in a wee bit. We have about 100 reselling partners who are really adding value to our solution by implementation services and by bringing their expertise to the table. We have collected quite a few badges over the years. We're a gold partner of Microsoft. We are certified for Azure and Dynamics, and we have an ISO certification as well. For the Europeans in the room, we know what GDPR is as well. We have been doing quite well. 2016, 2017, been in the Profit 500, so most or the Canadian fastest growing companies, and as a matter of fact, we probably are going to be in the 2018 500s as well. Okay, so let's have a look. What happened in 2018? Something important, I guess. In February, there was this acquisition that Xpertdoc did, first acquisition ever the company did, and that was the acquisition of XperiDo. Adam, I think this would be a great time to roll poll number 1 that we have.
Sure.
We're going to do a couple of polls here, questions that you maybe want to answer. What's this XperiDo thing all about? It is, as a matter of fact, or what was it? It was, as a matter of fact, the one of the most popular solutions to generate documents, third-party solutions to generate documents from Microsoft Dynamics. As you probably know, there are different ways to generate documents, out-of-the-box ways to generate documents out of Microsoft Dynamics, and the most popular ones are SSRS, so SQL Server Reporting Services, and out-of-the-box Word templates. Those are the native solutions that Microsoft offers for document generation. And the problem usually is that SSRS is sometimes a little bit too complex, and out-of-the-box Word documents or Word document generation is usually a little bit too limited. So people are still looking very much towards third-party solutions to really address their document generation challenges from Dynamics. And well, XperiDo has been together with Xpertdoc, definitely has been one of the most popular tools to actually address those challenges. There are other third-party tools, and obviously there's still an option that you do not have any need to generate documents, but I would be surprised if that's the case and you are in this session. So the first fruit of that acquisition is that we released something new, which is Xpertdoc Smart Flows. And Xpertdoc Smart Flows, as a matter of fact, is the successor of the XperiDo solution for Dynamics. So it replaces XperiDo going forward. So it was when we when the acquisition took place, it was almost finished, but really the Canadian team has sped up the release and has really taken it to a higher level. By the way, the acquisition was a very smooth process, and that shouldn't surprise because Canadians are obviously always the nice guys in the room, and Belgians are modest and humble by default. So it shouldn't surprise that, as a great Canadian poet once said, it isn't too hard to see we're in heaven. So there you go. It's been released in early access mode end of April, and pretty soon in July 2018, general availability is to be expected. What is it all about? Why do you have to be interested in this thing? Well, it actually helps you automate. It helps you deliver documents generation, helps you deliver documents, helps you generate documents from Microsoft Dynamics in a way that is easy to use, easy to manage, and easy to integrate, and is yet a very powerful solution. I think the most important point to make here is that end users who are using the Xpertdoc Smart Flows are able to generate documents and deliver documents in a single click, but it goes beyond just generating and delivering. You can really, with that 1 or 2 clicks, you can really start a process that can have conditional branches, that can check, for instance, what the value of a certain quotation is, and then based on that value, if it's higher than a certain amount, it can start a procedure where it first goes through an approval process before it's actually sent to the customer for signature. If it's lower than that amount, it can immediately be sent out using an e-signature platform like DocuSign or a couple of other options that we offer. And where you basically get through that entire process in that way. You can even wait until the person who needs to sign it actually places the signature and then update your records in Dynamics. So it's quite a lot of things that you can achieve with just a couple of clicks from Dynamics. Okay. So it's not only a question of making sure it's easy to use for end users, but I think Xpertdoc has also done a great job making sure that it's easy to manage, easy to configure, that you can get to all the data you want to include in your documents without having to write very complex fetch XML queries and so on and so forth. It's all very, very straightforward and user-friendly in terms of setting up the data sets that you want to, the data definitions that you want to use, and also very straightforward in terms of template design. It comes with a Word add-in, an add-in for Microsoft Word. Everybody knows how to use Word, and we think that the people in your organization who are probably the people who manage document processes, who care about what's in documents, they'll probably know their way around Microsoft Word much better than developers do. So in our view, it doesn't make much sense to include developers all of the time or IT people all of the time into the tiniest little changes that have to be made to document templates. Not only that, also the processes of actually delivering the documents, you don't have to be a programmer to define those processes. We have a very straightforward modeling environment that everybody can use to kind of drag and drop the different steps that have to be completed in the process of delivering and storing the generated documents. I'll demo all of these things later on. And the good thing also is that we have turnkey integration, so it's not difficult to get this thing going. We have turnkey integrations, obviously, with Dynamics. It's just a matter of getting the managed solution in there and set up your account, and then you're good to go. Okay. We also have out-of-the-box integration with SharePoint, and we do support quite a few of those e-signing platforms. I think, Adam, this would be a good time to roll poll question number 2.
Sure. Let me just open that poll. There we go.
So there you go. So quite a lot of our customers right now are using Xpertdoc solutions and prior to that XperiDo solutions in combination with e-signing platforms. Typical scenarios are the ones that I just mentioned, with a quote that has to be delivered and has to be signed. But also think about, you know, your typical agreements or contracts that have to be signed, or for instance also mobile scenarios, like where a mobile person, a sales representative or a service representative on the road, well, has, for instance, a work order that has been finished and needs to be signed off by a customer. So that sort of thing those are perfect scenarios to use the Xpertdoc solution, Xpertdoc Smart Flows, combined with one of these different providers of e-signatures. We don't support them all as we speak. Most of them we do support, but there are 2 in the list we don't support at this point. That's Adobe Sign and Signicat. So if you want us to support those real quickly, make sure that you choose wisely as you answer this poll. Okay, say that you want to integrate with something that is not, or that we do not have an out-of-the-box or a turnkey integration for. You can still do that because we still have our REST API, brand new REST API following the Open API specification, the OAS, which you can use to basically call the Xpertdoc Smart Flows processes from wherever you are. So you can do that from within your own custom code if you want to. Okay. So the title of this presentation, like Adam said in the beginning, was something with 4 reasons to use Smart Flows. Well, kind of summing up what I just, summarizing what was mentioned before. What is this all about? It's really giving power to your end users to accelerate document creation processes. That's a very important reason why you want to do that. I mean, if you look at the time that people spend, right, that companies spend right now, that people in companies spend generating or handcrafting documents, and all the time that gets lost with, well, you know, copying and pasting and all the mistakes that are made, and the money and the time those mistakes cost, it just doesn't make any sense to continue creating documents manually. Okay. If you look at the other solutions that are out there, well, usually they get you in trouble as well, because they do not always deliver all the capabilities that you need to make sure that the right content is showing up in the document. So you kind of keep on being in that manual, time-consuming flow where mistakes are easily made. So you don't want to do that. So accelerating the document creation processes, making your people more productive, I think that's a very important aspect. And also making sure that the entire process of creating a document, delivering a document, getting a document signed, getting it back into your systems of data, I think that is also a very important point that taps into the acceleration key point I wanted to make there. Okay, so that's number 1, accelerating everything. Number 2, data is everywhere. You have a lot of data in your CRM system probably, but some of your data is probably living somewhere else. With Xpertdoc Smart Flows, you can actually combine data from multiple sources, not only from across Dynamics 365, but also beyond Dynamics 365. So you can perfectly call web services that spit XML, and if you define the structure of that XML ahead of time, then Xpertdoc Smart Flows knows exactly what to expect, and it can actually pick up data from outside of Microsoft Dynamics and put it into the documents that you're producing. So that's another important point. It kind of it can reach all the data you have, no matter where it resides. Another thing is to assure consistency across all of your departments. Consistency in terms of the look and feel of all the documents that you send out. Consistency also in terms of the content and the language that is used inside those documents, which are obviously very important points, but also consistency on a higher level, the level of how these documents are delivered and where they are stored. It won't happen again that you that you create a document and that the document is stored in the wrong place and you cannot find it afterwards and so on and so forth. There is a fixed process if you automate it, right? So you're going to be absolutely sure that the documents are always going to be in the same place. Documents are always going to be following the same path into SharePoint, into Dynamics, wherever you want to store them. Can be your local file system for all I care. So there are quite a few options there. And very important point as well, and I already touched it a little bit, and that's number 4 over here. I think really we hear a lot of IT people who are very grateful for the existence of a solution like Xpertdoc Smart Flows, because it actually empowers business users. It empowers business process owners in many cases to create their own document generation processes, to manage their own templates, and to really get that out of the hands of IT. Not because we don't trust them, but they have other things to do. I mean, the time that IT people spend on adjusting templates and making tiny little changes, that's just ridiculous. And you can get rid of all of that wasted time by using a solution like Xpertdoc Smart Flows. Okay, so that's basically my PowerPoint. Good thing for me because it's something I like better than walking people through PowerPoint slides. It's actually demo time. So I'm going to touch 3 perspectives, 3 persona: an end user, an admin, and a designer. So these are the most important persona in the Xpertdoc Smart Flows kind of little world. End users are the persons who are actually generating the documents, can be typically your Dynamics users. Not necessarily they're all of your Dynamics users. You can actually go for a subset of users if you want to license just 20 out of 1,000. That's perfectly possible. But those are the ones, obviously, that gain the most, that can actually generate the documents and deliver them in a consistent way and a very productive way. Then admins are those people who are probably, they're also going to be your typical Dynamics system admins. If they know how the data is structured in CRM, yeah, they'll perfectly be able to define data sets, create and manage their templates, model their flows, and check configurations and do reporting or check reporting of everything that's happened on the platform. So then obviously there's the final group, and those are going to be the designers, the more creative spirits in the organization, who can actually leverage the power and the usability of Microsoft Word to do their template design. And it goes far beyond what you can do with Microsoft Word out of the box, but it kind of keeps it in that familiar, simple, straightforward kind of way that we know of Microsoft Word. Okay, so quite a lot of things that you can do. I'm not going to touch everything right now. I'm rather going to show you a couple of things. So out of this PowerPoint slide and into dynamics. So there we go. Couple of scenarios I want to touch with you guys, starting from an end user's perspective. I'm going to start with the end user's perspective and then move it on to the admin's perspective, and I hope to finish off in about 20 to 25 minutes with some template design stuff. Okay, so that should definitely leave us some time for Q&A if you want to. Typical scenario is the quote scenario, and I touched the scenario a couple of times before. We're just going to do the scenario with the generation of the quote, where we're going to look at the total amount of our quote. Okay, so I'm starting this from the list view. You can perfectly start the process from a detail view as well if you want to. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to close a window that I had already opened in the back, just so to open it up again. So what you see over here are two quotes. One of my quotes is 20,950 euros. Obviously, the CRM is the European one. It's a CRM4 one. It's the European one. I set it to euros. Obviously, you can do dollars and other currencies as well. So it says 22,000 and so much euros here. It says 67,500 euros over there. And basically, our flow that we're going to run in a wee bit that we have over here, which is called quote with approval process. Right? That quote with approval process is going to check that value and check whether it's higher than 50,000 euros or not. If it's higher than 50,000, what it's basically going to do, and that's going to happen for this large quote, what it's going to do is it's going to send an email to the account manager that is connected to this particular quote. If I open it up, I'm just going to look at who that is. Oh, come on, Microsoft, you can do it. Yep, there we are. It's going to be Jim Cassidy, so we're going to send an email to Jim Cassidy if we start the flow from this one, asking Jim to have a look at what we came up with generating this quote and approve it. Okay, get me back. There you go. And then the other one is a lower value a quote, right? So the total amount is lower than 50,000. What's going to happen over here, if I run the flow, it's immediately going to send an email. Not an email, it's going to send by DocuSign. It's going to send to René Valdez, who is the quote contact. It's going to send that quote and invite René Valdez via DocuSign to e-sign the quotation. After René has signed the quotation, it will update this record in Dynamics with a note that has the signed quote as a note attachment. So that's the idea. Let's test it and let's see whether it works or not. So quote with approval process, I'm running it from the 8-ATOM solar quote, which is less than 50,000. So what we expect right now, as we run the flow, is that Xpertdoc will Xpertdoc still have to get used to it a little bit. Xpertdoc will open up, generate a document, and send it to DocuSign. Okay, and when that's done, we expect that the flow will pause. It's pausing already, so there you go. The flow will pause and wait for an external event. Well, what is the external event? The external event is that our customer, René Valdez, will have to sign the document. So we're going to get into the inbox. We're pretending to be René Valdez right now. What happened over here just a minute ago, this is local time 2024, and now it's so that's 8:24, and now it is 8:24. So this one just came in. So if we open that up, we have news from DocuSign, namely that somebody wants us to sign something. So we can review the document, and this brings us to the DocuSign experience, where we can say, you know, if you have set it up that way, I agree to using DocuSign for electronic signing. Just hit continue, and you can hit start, and that will take you to the place in the document where you can sign it. Okay, so if you'll have a look at the document first, what it actually contains is well, an opening page, right? And then what else? We see an opening or cover letter, first of all, addressed to Ms. Valdez. And it's signed by the person over here, this character, who is actually the owner of the record in CRM, right? What else do we see in there? We see an overview of the different products in this quotation. So that's your typical quote, right? Interesting over here as well is that we have a discount here of 10%, which we have calculated over here. We could have just taken that number from CRM as well. We for the fun of it, we calculated it. But the most important thing is that this entire table row is actually in a conditional box that states, well, you know, only show this row provided that there is actually a discount. And to set up that condition, it's very straightforward. It's a wizard. It's a next kind of wizard that takes you through the process of setting it up, and you can't miss. Super easy. Going further on down, you see some details, some product details on each of the products that are in this quotation. And you see that we have two types of solar panels in there, a solar boiler and a heat pump. And if you look at it over here, you see that it's that the products or the product details are defined or are grouped by product category. So heat pump, that's what it starts off with. And as I scroll down, you see the boilers over here. There's only one boiler in our quote. But as I go down, I can see there are two types of solar panels. You see the 20 cells variant over here, and then there's a 40 cells variant as well. Scrolling further on down, some general terms and conditions, and some some information about our phony demo company. But the important thing here was that we wanted to sign the document. I just wanted to walk you through the document that we actually produced, just to indicate that this is actually not an ugly document. This is quite a nice looking document that has everything, I guess, that you could wish for in a quotation. If you wish for more, like if you want to do QR codes and barcodes and stuff like that, that's all possible as well. If you want to do charts, that's all possible as well. So quite a few things that you can do. You know, signing the document, you can use this pre-designed DocuSign signature, or you can draw your own signature right here. Okay, let's adopt and sign. So right now, our document is signed if I click Finish over here. So at this stage, what actually happened is that René Valdez, and I'm going to say no thanks to the question here that DocuSign is asking me. So at this point, the document that we have produced has been signed. So that was actually the event our flow was waiting for. So if I take it back to my smart flow over here, it is actually still waiting on a sign by DocuSign that the event we were waiting for has taken place, so we can continue with the flow. So bear in mind what we wanted to do: generate a document, deliver it to the person who needs to sign it, and when it's signed, get feedback from DocuSign, pick up the signed document and attach that to a note, and there you go, to a note in Dynamics. So I just kept on talking until it actually happens, and there you go. So I'm a slow talker, but I wasn't able to finish my sentence before it actually happened. So there you go. Our note has been created, so we can go to that note from here, or we can just go back into Dynamics, because I still have my record open. Maybe I have to update it. I'm not 100% sure. I don't actually, because I can see that this note was created less than a minute ago. Right now, local time is 8:29, and here it says 8:28:47 p.m. What do we have in here? Well, as an attachment, we have we have the document that we have produced, and not only the document we have produced, we actually have the document that has been signed. So this is the beautiful signature I just put there. Okay, so that's the branch in the condition where the total amount of the quotation is less than 50,000 euros. Now let's have a look at the other one. If I run exactly the same flow, so let me just take it back to the overview, so the list view over here. So if I would select my large quote, which is actually 76,500, if I would take this one and I run exactly the same flow, what I would expect, so the quote with approval process, is that we will actually go through the approval process. And that instead of sending this document out to DocuSign for e-signing, we will send an email to the account manager for approval first. So that's what actually happens indeed. So what we can do now, earlier on I went back to the record, but you can actually use the link to go straight to the item that we have created in Dynamics from here. So let's have a look at what actually happened. We have created an email activity within Microsoft Dynamics CRM. If it wants to open, so there we are, and it's an email that goes out from the active user, being myself in this case, to Jim Cassidy. That was our account manager, as you probably remember, and the subject line is please approve a quotation, right? I was a bit lazy here, and I just typed up some text over here to serve as the body of the email activity. What you can actually do is use another Xpertdoc template to create a very much more nice-looking body of that email. But I thought, since this is just an internal a quick email, a quick note I want to drop to Jim that he has to approve the quotation, I went for the quick way and just typed up some lines of text over here. More importantly, it is created against the record that we started from, so the large quote. It has a certain due date. Well, it's pretty urgent. It's very urgent. It's overdue already, and priority is set to high, right? Status is draft. You can choose whether you create an open email activity or a closed email activity. I created an open email activity right now, which we can still send over here. You can create a closed email activity that sends out the email straight away. And the most important thing, obviously, is the attachment that we have over here, quotation for 8 incorporation. As you can see, you can actually use fields from your data that you're collecting from Microsoft Dynamics 365 and use that in the name of the document. Let's open it up. So what we're going to see right now is exactly the same document, albeit, well, it's not exactly the same document, it's a different quotation. So we see different numbers. We see 22 solar panels of the 40 cells type. So it gets you to 67,500. As you can see, there's no, it's a bit strange that we didn't give any discount over here, and for the small quote we did. But anyway, you see that the discount is not showing up, and that's because of that conditional box that I mentioned earlier on. So if I scroll all the way down, you'll see that the signature has not been placed yet. It has not been delivered to the customer to sign it. Okay, so once again, what we did here is we generated a document and started a full flow with containing business logic. And for the end user, all of that is just a matter of that one single click. Select the right flow, and that's the only thing the end user has to care about. And all the rest, all your business process, or your full business process, your consistent delivery, your consistent layout, that's all been taken care of by the Smart Flows, by the Xpertdoc Smart Flows solution. Okay? By the way, if you want to give more power to the end user, you can actually do so. If you want to give an end user control of a certain part of what's going on, you can actually ask the end user for user input. So let me just do that with another flow I have over here, which is called quote with user input. Okay, let's run that one. And basically, this is asking the user for some input during the document generation process. So instead of just going ahead and generating that document and delivering it, it pauses at 0% and it asks questions to the end user. So, like, do you want to start this document? So, if you want to start this document with an alternative first paragraph, and you can do that and type something like, "Hey, I'm happy to send you this quotation," something like that. There you go. And then include product descriptions. You know, those were the product descriptions I talked about earlier, the ones that were grouped with the pictures and everything. You can say, you know what, forget about those. Don't want to see them this time. And the terms and conditions, well, that section, it has a short variant, a medium version, and a long version. So let's maybe cut the red tape and go for the short version straight away. Okay, so let's hit next. And basically what happens now is that it generates the document and gets rid of the things that we did not, or that we opted out of. And it will also have changed that first paragraph to something else. So let's have a look. Still 8 Corporation, still going out to Ms. Valdez, but here it says, I'm happy to send you this quotation as the first paragraph of this thing. Scrolling all the way down, you can see that we have the product table, and an interesting thing here as well, I mentioned earlier on that we had the capability of actually going out of Dynamics and retrieving extra information that does not reside within Dynamics. And so basically here the idea is that we go into a product database and pick up some product-related information. And basically how that works is that we connect the items from our product database based on their product ID with the products in our quote based on the quote number, on the product number of or the product ID of the existing product that is related to this quote line, right? And here you go. So these are fields that are not in CRM. So the dimensions and the weight and the name of the manufacturer and the quantity in stock, that's not in CRM. These items actually come from CRM. Okay, so we kind of combine that with what we call a pseudo relationship. Scrolling on down, we said no. I thought we said no to the question of including the. That's interesting. We still see them. Okay, something went wrong there. For some reason, I haven't probably I probably didn't set up these conditions correctly. I'll have to look into that. But we do see the product details. I had expected not to see it. And as we scroll down, I at least expect that we see the short version of the terms and conditions. Well, we see the short version of the terms and conditions. So that's what we see over here. So we still have Farce and Limo explanation over here, and that's it for this template, right? So that's another quote that we run. I have another one right here, which is a table with external data, which is more or less the same thing, going to external data and adding that to a quotation in this case. Okay, so I'm not going to run this one, but just to illustrate that you can do other things. I mentioned the work orders that need to be signed off, or I mentioned contracts, but you can do all sorts of things. Think also, for instance, about reporting. Say that we take it to sales and accounts. We go and find a list of our customers, and let's maybe sort them alphabetically over here. And you can basically select all of those items, because there's no reason to just select one or two items and run all of those things one by one. What you actually can do is run a process that generates a document for all of the selected items in the list. So we have 37 items selected in our list right now. So what I can do now is go in and find and generate this opportunities report. So let's just do that. This is going to actually run a report with charts and everything for all of these items. It's going to run that report, and it's also going to password protect each of these reports, because obviously this is sensitive information. We want to protect access or prevent access to these documents for people who don't have the right level of clearance. So there you go. So as you can see, you can see what's going on. So it's generating all of these documents. I've selected 37, so we're going to be sitting here and looking at this for a wee while. So it's going to continue creating all of these documents. And what we're going to see in all of these documents is an overview of their open opportunities, their closed opportunities, their won opportunities and lost opportunities. We're going to have a look at who their contacts are, how many contacts they have, what gender they have, whether or not they're subscribed to our newsletter, and so on and so forth. So let me just open that up, for instance, for Adventure Works over here. Let's open the thing up, and yeah, it's password protected, so you have to know the password. It's a good thing I know the password. So there you go. And this is what that document looks like. So as you can see, it looks like we only have male contacts, 2 of them for this particular account. So that's not a spectacular chart that you see over here. But you see this nice donut showing the lost open and won opportunities, and you know, the estimated revenue of all kinds of opportunities right here. And as you can see, we generated that document May 15, 2018, 8:39 p.m., which is a minute ago. Right? So yeah, so quite a lot of things that you can do as an end user to produce the documents that you need to give you insights in your information in Dynamics, to deliver information in a good way to your customers or your potential customers, and to kind of make the process of actually interacting with you and signing off on items that need a signature. You can see how Xpertdoc Smart Flows makes all of that more consistent and makes all of that more productive and easy to do. Okay, so reducing the number of clicks, reducing the potential risk of making mistakes. Okay, going to close a couple of these windows as we speak, and so I had opened quite a few windows in the process, so I'm going to close off quite a few of those and take you to the next perspective right now, which would be the administrator's perspective. Right. I want to take you back to the original flow that we run, the one where we had the approval process. So actually what happened there is that we collected data from Dynamics, we merged that data into a template, and then we had a flow that contained that conditional logic where, you know, in one condition it went straight on to DocuSign. In the other condition, it passed through it passed to the account manager for approval first. Okay, so I'm just going to skip all of this and just go straight away to my flows and find the flow that we were actually running at that point. It was called quotation or quote with approval process. So this is the one. I'm opening it up, and this is how you build it. And you know, much of this this canvas is actually pre-populated pre-populated as you add items or as you create the flow based on a template and a data set, or templates and data sets that you have already created earlier on. So what actually happens here is that by default we start our flows from Dynamics, so starting from a record, one or more record that you select on a list view or on a detail view, and start the process. And the first thing that's going to happen is that we're going to collect data. Which data are we going to collect? Well, the data from the data set that is connected to the template that we use over here to generate a document, right? So that's all pre-populated automatically for you. You don't have to worry about it for a minute. And then the cool thing over here is that you can start adding your own store and delivery blocks over here. So you can say, you know, let me add a block, and the block is going to be, for instance, conditional, and you can add a condition right here. We already did that, so let me show you how we did it. So we add this quote, we added this conditional step over here. So I'm going to look at that condition and show you how it's done. It's not complex at all. It's just a matter of selecting a value that you want to use in your condition. And if we look at how we selected that value, well, we get a nice overview of all of our fields on the quote entity, and we selected total amount, as you can see. And then the next thing we did is, well, they decided that this was a number field, that we were going to use this field as a number. And as an operator, we said, you know, we're going to check that this field is greater than, and then we just added this value. We just typed up 50,000 over here, and that's it. Okay, so that's our condition that we did over here, and it has a true branch by default. It automatically creates that true branch and that false branch for you, and then you can start adding stuff into those conditions, like send email to account manager for approval. That's what we did over here, and here we have all the settings. It's going from the active user right now. It's going to be sent to the account manager that we have on our quote. It's going to have this subject line. It's going to be this is going to have this this message, and obviously, as I mentioned before, you can actually use another template to populate the body of your email, yeah, if you want to do that. And then importantly, of course, it has this this generated document over here as an attachment. Scrolling on down, you can see that it's set to priority high, and the action is save, not send, right? So you can send it straight away if you want to. And you know, the due date is going to be the default over here, which is the current date and time, right? If you don't want to really work with due dates, if you obviously can set an interval for a due date, so it's going to be this date and time plus so many hours or plus so many days and so on and so forth. Okay, right. So next on, false branch. What are we doing right there? We're sending our document to the end user, or not the end user, but the potential customer through DocuSign, right? So instead of adding an email step, a create email step, what we did is add a send to DocuSign step. And you can set the subject line for your DocuSign email. You can set, well, what we call the blurb, which is the body of your email. You can type some text in there. You can choose a brand ID if you have multiple brands that you use and different look and feel for documents. Sorry, for those different brands. You can select a brand ID over here, and you can. And this is an interesting one. You continue the flow only when all signers have taken action, and that's why the flow was actually in a waiting state after the document was sent to DocuSign and just sitting there and waiting for the signer to actually take action. When the signer took action, it created the note, and the note contained the signed document that's basically linked in this DocuSign step. Okay, and it's set regarding the document the record that we started from. You can obviously choose what the title of your note is and what the description or the body of your note should be. So there you go. That's basically how you create such a flow. Obviously, before you can create such a flow, you need data. So yeah, let's just leave. You need data, and for that you have to create data sets. Now, looking at the time right here, I'd rather spend a few more minutes talking about template design and doing Q&A instead of going to how you build data sets and templates. Let me definitely tell you it's very easy. And if I just open up one like this standard demo code data set, you're going to see that it's very easy to, you have all the fields over here that you can select. You have your end-to-one relationships, like, for instance, the account, the potential customer over here. And, if you want to add your code lines to your data set, you just go in and find your code lines, and then code line is going to be added. You can select fields of code line, and you can continue building and building and building. So there's no limitations, really, on how many levels deep you go into creating such data set. All the entities are available: standard entities, custom entities, virtual entities. They're all at your disposal, and you can continue adding items. Okay. So that's that in terms of data sets. After that, so I'm just going to cancel, just going to leave. Then you just simply create a template, and a template, well, can be connected to data sets. So when you create a data set first, it's going to make your items, your fields, and your related entities available for your data set, for your templates that are based on that data set. And then your template designer can start mapping those items into a template in the template builder for Microsoft Word. So let me just quickly open that up. So it's the only thing you need to install when you're when you're using Xpertdoc Smart Flows. And the interesting thing is, not everybody has to install it. Only the people, the creative souls inside your company or your organization, who are template designers, who will design the templates that other people, that end users, will use to generate documents. Those are the only those are the only people really that need to install anything on their local PC, right? And it has a small footprint. It's an add-in for Microsoft Word. That's basically what it is. So how does this thing work? So you basically, when you create a template in the console, in the project console, in Dynamics, or related to Dynamics, basically the templates that you create over there appear over here. So what you see, for instance, here is this Limo solar quotation. If I open that one up, yep, does it have data? It looks like it has. Okay, if I open that one up, I'm going to say yes. Let's overwrite the local file and get the one from the server. It's going to have probably is going to have quite a few mappings already, but most important thing is it has the data sets. And right here it's only one data set, but it's our quote data coming from CRM. So we see all of the items that we included in that data set that is related to that template, and we can start mapping things right here. So we see all of the fields starting from the account manager, and as you can see, the account manager is a system user, and also that system user, all the fields of that system user right here are included. Why are they included? Because we included the account manager relationship in our data set. Scrolling on down, typically what you see here as well is the quote contact and the potential customer. So those will be included as well. As probably this is going to link through to an account. So there you go. So both an account and a contact, so you can pick up both if you want to. So there you go. So those are the fields of account. And what else? What else? Typically, you also see the quote details, which is the one-to-many relationship to the quote lines of your quotation in Dynamics. Okay. So looking at the template, just want to show you. Real quickly, want to show you two things. Basically, a condition and a loop. So what we see over here is the discount percentage condition, the one I talked about earlier on, where you say, you know, we only want to show the discount provided that there actually is a discount. Okay, so how we did that, let me just double click to open that up. And this is, you know, this is the condition wizard that I talked about, where you can basically say, you know, hey, I want to check whether a field has a specific value. Well, which field? Well, the quote discount field. And if that field used as a number is greater than 0, then I want to show everything that's in my conditional box. Now, if you look at what's in the conditional box, you can see it's drawn around this table row. Okay? Simple as that. Couldn't be much simpler, I guess. So that's how you make something conditional. If you want to take it to the next level, you can check whether a field occurs and treat empty fields as not occurring. You can check whether a field occurs multiple times. So like, for instance, if I have more than 5 items in my quote, then I want to show this, this little paragraph, and otherwise I don't. And you can take it to the next level really with expressions. If you want to really make things complicated, then you can use expressions. Then again, expressions are pretty much like you know, like Excel. It's not difficult at all. Okay, so I'm just going to hit cancel over here, and then final thing before we take it to Q&A. Actually, this is a template. As you can see, this is a template that we were using earlier on, where we didn't have the product details, and you can tell why the product details didn't show up, or did show up, even though I said I answered no to the question. As you can see over here, I have no conditional thing around this. You know, I have this grouping, but there's no condition that says, well, leave those out or include them on this or that condition. So that's the reason why they showed up where they shouldn't have shown up earlier on. Okay, but I want to show you the loop over here. This is the important part, the loop where we have the loop of quote details. So we have the typical product table where we have the name of our product, the quantity of our product, the price per unit, and then the extended amount. So basically how you do that loop is also pretty straightforward. You select the item you want to repeat, which in this case is going to be this table row. Next up, you select something that repeats in your data set, which is going to be the quote detail, sort of quote line entity that is, and then you hit loop in the data set panel over here. Just basically hit loop, and that creates your loop automatically. Once you have that loop, you can have a look at what you want to do with the loop. You can sort it if you want to by whatever field of quote detail or underlying entities. You can use the field as text number once again, do it in an ascending or a descending way. take a case into account or not. You can limit the loop, like for instance, only show the most expensive product, something like that. It takes into account the sorting that you did the step before that. You can control break behavior, go to the next page on each iteration of the loop. You can merge the loop with a with a preceding table or with a following table, and so on and so forth. So quite a lot of things that you can do in terms of looping. If you want to do more, well, you can perfectly do that. You can include barcodes. You can include your e-signatures. You can include your charts. You can include images. You can do the formula like we mentioned before, and you can switch from one language to another, because you actually can have multiple language variants. So if you're in Canada, for instance, and you want to have a French and an English version of your templates, you can perfectly have those. If you if you live in the South and you want to have Spanish versions and English versions, you can perfectly do that as well. So all those things are included. It's very easy to set up, as I hope I have demonstrated throughout the last well, 55 minutes. And after you've done all of that, you can actually go ahead and look at your reporting and see what actually happens on the server. So you can check. So let me just do that again, and you can check what happened. And as you can see, we had a very good day today. A lot of successful flows that we run. Yesterday we had some flows that failed, and you know, you can actually drill down into the failures if you can just get rid of all the rest, and then you can see the errors, and you can see what happens. You can actually check the errors and so on and so forth. So there you go. So you can look at the details and see what went wrong and so on and so forth. Okay, so Adam, I think I have flooded everybody with information right now, so that should definitely do it. I went a little bit over time, I guess, so we only have 3 minutes left before it's the top of the hour for Q&A. So let's maybe go ahead and answer some questions.
Absolutely. And once again, if anybody has any questions, please type them into the Q&A box, and we'll get to all of them. Looks like we actually have some questions coming in. I'll read them out to you. The first one is, do I have to license all my Dynamics 365 users for Xpertdoc Smart Flows, or can I go with a subset?
You can absolutely go with a subset. So so it doesn't really matter how many of your users you license. You can obviously, we like you to license everybody, but that's not necessary. We look at two things, and when we talk about pricing, we'll look at two things. That's how many users you license. That's one thing, and also how many documents you create on a monthly basis. Pricing has not been so final pricing has not been released just yet. For the Xpertdoc Smart Flow solution, but it's going to be published well, in maybe next week or the week after. So we're almost at the point where we're going to publish pricing for the solution. It's going to be more or less along the lines of what you used to pay for XperiDo earlier on.
We have another question that just came in. Are there any plans to integrate with Microsoft Flow?
Well, that's a very good question. Actually, there are. If you remember XperiDo, for those who have experience with that, that integrated with Dynamics workflows, and we're going to do the same thing with Smart Flow. So you will be able to start a Smart Flow from a Dynamics workflow. But obviously, the world has evolved, and Microsoft has evolved, and right now the big thing is Microsoft Flow. So there will also be, and I'm happy to announce that there will also be a Microsoft Flow blog for Xpertdoc. So that means that you can start an Xpertdoc Smart Flow, a process execution, document generation, process execution from within a Microsoft Flow, and you can pick up the results and continue your flow afterwards. So for instance, if you want to, so we have the connector to SharePoint, but if you want to pick up a generated document and save it somewhere else, and you have a Microsoft Flow blog that can pick up that file and just drop it maybe in Box or in whatever other system that where you want to save your documents, store your documents. You can perfectly do that.
Great. Let's see if we have any more questions. Looks like we have another one that just came in. Are there any limitations in terms of how many entities you can include in a data set?
So no limitations from a technical perspective. Obviously, if you select every entity in your entire CRM system, it will have an effect on performance in the end. So that's something that you shouldn't do, of course. But to my knowledge, there are no limitations, no technical limitations as to how many entities you can include in a data set. And once again, you can include any type of entity, so that means your custom entities, your standard entities, and also even your virtual entities, which Dynamics, which the guys from Microsoft added. I think in the previous version, I think not the last version, but the version before that. By the way, also all the types, all the field types are supported. So that means that also the multi-select option sets, for instance, that's all supported. So you can use them in Xpertdoc Smart Flows just the same.
Looks like we have another question that came in. Let me read this. Are there any limitations as to how many data mappings or pictures you can insert in a template?
Well, good news there as well. So there are no limitations in terms of how many mappings you can do. And I know, for instance, that out-of-the-box document generation from Microsoft, I shouldn't say the word no because I'm not 100% sure, but I think there are a few limitations as to how many pictures you can include in such a document. While there are no such limitations with Xpertdoc Smart Flow. So you can do as many pictures as you want to. You can do as many pages if you want to. We actually do have customers that use the system to generate like multiple 100-page documents with a lot of pictures, like catalogs with product pictures all over the place. So that's all perfectly possible. And the pictures can come from Dynamics. They can come from SharePoint. They can come from URLs. They can be embedded in the template, obviously. So there is all the options are open.
Okay, looks like we have another question that came in. Is Smart Flows a part of the current Xpertdoc license? If so, is it generally available?
So if you have a license, that would probably then be an Xpertdoc portal license. I don't think that it's going to be included. Probably there's going to be an additional charge, but no worries. We're gonna publish pricing pretty soon, and then all of the pricing questions are going to be absolutely clear to everybody. So I'd like you to be a little bit patient. Sorry, bear with us for a few more days, and then we'll provide all that information on the Xpertdoc website.
Great. It doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in, so why don't we end? Erwin, thanks so much for a great session. We were really glad to have you. And I want to thank everybody.
For having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Anytime. And I'd also like to thank all the attendees for joining us today. We did record the session, and we'll be sure to email you out a copy in the next couple of days. So thanks again.